Hey guys, Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Trap. So I've seen the trailer for this movie quite a few times, and just after the one with the daughter making the debut, it's interesting to see M. Night come back in this quickly in retrospect of that particular film. At any rate, as I mentioned, I've seen the trailer for this a few times, and I initially thought when I first saw the trailer, because I don't remember when I first saw it if it announced who was up behind this. I first thought that this was actually not M. Night's work, at least initially, until that came to light. But I digress. Anyway. So the movie follows our character named Cooper, who ends up being a serial killer, and him trying to hide out in this plot that is being placed upon him via this concert. Now, I only read after watching the movie that this might have actually been based off of something. I don't know what truth there is to that, but I'll just stick to what's in the movie anyway. So, we see this guy, Cooper, how he's able to navigate through, he starts to notice, when he heads out to the corridors of where the show's breakpoints are, to navigate how to avoid the police who are already surrounding the area, checking people one by one, ushering them away. So I believe these operations are called sting operations. I might be completely wrong on that. But that's the term I know it by. Again, could be wrong, but anyway. So we see him, as I mentioned, try to, make sure that he has some ample time. So he's checking the restroom, checking his phone to see, who one of his victims currently is tied up, and again is with his daughter when they're watching the show in the main event area. And during one of his outings, another parent talks to him about how her and her daughter are also there, and the two daughters had this falling out, apparently. This is sort of like a side plot, because it doesn't really conclude by the end of the movie. It's just something that sort of is implied here. And again, we see him start to notice the police, more of them coming in, and trying to gather intel from the people who are working there. One particular guy named Jamie gives him the scoop about how they're doing this to essentially trap him in. And through this, he learns of the best possible scenario immediately, and that is getting backstage somehow, being the only way conceivably that he'd be able to get out. So he tries to continue scoping out potential viable ways of, getting to that outcome. During such, he knocks one young woman over, down a complete flight of stairs, and it coming off as, he plays it off as it was an accident, or she tripped or something. I forget which it was, but anyway. I'm not sure if that counted on his death count. The movie kind of keeps to his perspectives, and he moves away pretty quickly, so he's trying to observe even when he's on the show or the singer is doing one of their many performances. Like when there's a collaborative part of it where this other singer comes out, he's like looking under there to see if, he can gain access to other areas. And he offered during his first trip to Jamie, this guy. Jamie promised another T-shirt because he offered up his spot for someone else, so he gets another one for free, I guess. And in the process, this is where he grabs a card from Jamie. He also gains access to the password and has the card on him as well to get him once he gets access outside, but it's on the above ground, to see that the police are checking to make sure the staff know, now being him included in that staff, whether or not he is in the green, as it were. But he continues to show his little nabby abilities as he grabs a walkie-talkie a little bit later on, when he sort of slinks into this talk about the police all gathering and assigning who potential people are. One mentions of a tattoo, so he quickly covers up his tattoo. And speaking of further coincidence, he was about to hit a fire alarm, but just as he's about to, one of the lead police officers mentions how he will likely try to do that. So he stops, because he has the walkie-talkie. He can hear what they're talking about. He then causes a woman to become a burn victim by turning up the temperature of the thing, the boiling of the food up to its full, and then leaving bottles there, although I don't remember him dropping them in, they just appear there, I think. So, little slip of the camera work there, or the work of whatever, to imply that he did that, I guess. Which does become extremely annoying toward the end, I will say, because there is a particular one that happens that leads towards the ending outcome we see, and it's like, well, I mean, why did X happen? But we'll get there. So, he's able to sneak back and forth. And the daughter is kind of getting a little wary of what he's trying, all the leaving and stuff more so. And the show is nearing its end. It's all these several songs, and we have our once again cameo of one M. Night Shyamalan as Cooper here sees the singer's uncle, I believe, is his relationship to the singer. So he makes up this whole ordeal, like the daughter has some sort of condition, and how it would be neat and how she beat it or whatever, and how it would be neat if she was chosen. So indeed, she gets chosen. They get the backstage passes. They get a whole performance out of the daughter with the singer. And Cooper uses this other young woman. Seems to be a very, repeating offense of, except the person he has trapped is some guy that was on to him or something or other, I don't know. Anyway. So he nearly avoids the lead detective by helping some other woman who was passing out due to something or other. I'm not even sure what it was. To help avoid that and come across as, oh, he's a saint and oh, he's helping out, all that stuff. The daughter is there too. And as we are seeing his plan sort of move so close to success, as it were, we see how the police and the lead detective are like, recheck everyone. You know, you could be talking to the killer. So they're like, you know, double down on all that. And, you know, check everyone who's leaving, essentially. So, the killer, now pinned down, because I guess he just overhears all of that. I'm not sure how the distance worked on it, but whatever. I'm assuming he did, because he goes into the singer's room when she's done performing, and just fully blurts out that he is the killer, and that he'll kill the person on the phone, the guy, that he has captured, if she does not cooperate, so she proceeds to do so. So they get them all in a limo, and the singer begins to try to get them to a different location. They get them to the house, his house particularly, where she heads on over, plays the piano, and in the process of all of that, proceeds to take the phone that has the guy on it, and locks herself in the one of the rooms. From there, she's trying to warn that's the butcher to the rest of the family. We hear some scuffling, so ultimately, I guess he just locked them somewhere, according to him anyway, but that doesn't seem to mean anything later on, I guess. So he gets them to the car, and while he's having some sort of, like, realization attack, I guess, I don't know if I would call it PTSD, because that's a war thing, so I'm not sure if that's related to that necessarily. There's some sort of, like, memory thing going on, at any rate, where the singer's able to get out, and the SWAT team, who, you know, she was able to, while in that restroom, by the way, you know, live streamed her fans, find the guy, as well, get him out, all within the span of however long she was in there. So the SWAT arrive, I guess they just happened to get her location too, or whatever. I don't know exactly how that worked out, but anyway. He ends up in the underground area, so he's not in the house anymore. And this is where the movie just shows that he's like a ninja all of a sudden, because it shows that he's somehow just in a police uniform now. That would have to imply that he knocked one out, took off all of their clothes, put it all on, and then got out. Not sure how he did all of that, but he did somehow. Again, ninja tactics are at play at this stage of the movie, and it doubles down in this section of the movie. So he has the police uniform on. He's with the singer, trapped in a car. No one else is in the car, by the way, even though I swear someone else entered the car, but whatever, post-shoot, edit out, whatever. She manages to get out again, because she, like, yells out the window at some point, and then, you know, people sort of pack the car, so she's able to alleviate herself as he's more distracted by all the people surrounding them. And as the police arrive, he does it again, where he just takes off the police uniform. This time, it just so happened that there would be clothes next to him on the right of him. He changes his clothes quickly enough to do this again, where he's now doing that. Opening the car, by the way, without anyone noticing on top of that, and then, you know, being in the typical, or more just like casual wear, rather than in a police uniform. So he makes his way out, or attempts to. They're like absconded for like a little bit, and during the mom's, uh, work, she had like they show the police outside, and then he just ninjas himself inside the house. So somehow he snuck past security again for the third time now, and she offers up some pie. This pie happens to be laced. She also ate or partook in some pie, so I'm not sure how that panned out. I guess you needed to take enough of the pie to whatever, I don't know. Point is, he's all messed up again. And during his outburst, or trip, rather, he ends up getting shocked twice over before trying to attack again, and then getting shocked a third time by 3 different taser points. Then the police, in their absolute idiocy, allow him to make his way to a bike. They should just be moving him to the car. They shouldn't be allowing him to touch anything. And they should have rechecked him after he checked the bike, because it allows what the ending to imply happened, allows that to occur. Among hugging the daughter, which is something also the police probably shouldn't allow either, despite how desperate she was. That should be irrelevant at this point. So they get him in the car. We see him in the car, and we see him take out the thing that he took from the bike, which is like this long thing that he's able to start to work the lock pads, and we see him free himself, and that is the end of the movie. Again, I'm not sure if this was based on a true story. I read that once. I didn't look any deeper into it. But as far as this movie's concerned, I don't like how many times this movie needs to desperately cling to he's abruptly a ninja now ability. It loses the human element to the movie. I mean, this is just a serial killer as far as, the movie's saying on the poster here. It's not like he's like a trained assassin ninja who can like bamf into other clothes or whatever. And if we are going to see that, I think it behooves direction to show us how he gets through these, little bumps in the road. I think that actually engages heavier in the movie rather than being lazy. Screw lack of, leave it to the imagination. There is that sort of, trope in horror of the leave it to the imagination. But, there is an extent of what you are trying to portray as well. And as far as I can tell, what they're trying to portray is a serial killer, pretty much almost getting away with it, essentially. Well, at least that's what the end of the movie implies, anyway. Plus that, he's even allowed to be in the back of the police car without anybody else getting in the back at all, on top of, him getting access to the bike on, So doubling up on the stupidity on the cops in one fell swoop is just like, you're kind of like, you're really not doing, bit any favors. You lose the ability to believe that the character can do all of these things rather quickly, especially when they're in such quick succession of one another. And it's definitely towards the latter half of the movie that it's all packed into this, like, oh, well, he's just getting out of this scenario because he just ninja poofs into X, and the cops just don't do their job properly throughout their entire section only at the end of the movie, because up to that, you could sort of be like, oh, okay, like, the police don't know, they just know that there is a killer, they don't know, they're gaining intel as this, ploy is happening, so I was able to let that one slide toward the beginning where they don't have as much info. They just know there is a killer among this large crowd, and then, info comes as to what type of suspects to look for. That bit came into play a little bit, and then it stopped immediately. But that was on the behest of a little bit of convenience, but at least we saw it. At least we saw what he did to avoid him being picked off as, oh, he's a suspicious guy all of a sudden because of the tattoo, for example. Like, he just happened to see a wristband thing, but at least we see him pick it up. At least we see that much, That's all I'm asking for in this type of movie. Like, again, how to get past the police to get to his house. We can see a quick scene of him passing through somehow. Maybe he knows a way in that they didn't quite cover yet, and they just got to before he did. I don't know, something to alleviate this absolute gap in ability. So yeah, I would say the opening section of the movie is fine. The third section of the movie, like the previous movie, and which was the debut of his daughter's film, the third section of the movie really turns and shifts the movie in a way that isn't satisfying. And, it's not like I'm not even going into the acting, which is usually rather stilted in Shyamalan type films, and I'm like, okay, fine, let that be his shtick, whatever. Like, I'm let that slide, I guess. But it's like, you have to have some bases still, you still have to cover some basics. And I feel like a lot of that kind of is erased in the third section of this movie. It just completely rushes to get to this this end point, when with a little bit more time I feel like he could have just did these quickly establishing little bits to help us understand how this character is navigating through these tricky scenarios, essentially. So yeah, in terms of a score, I think I'm probably going to lean toward a 4 out of 10, like slightly below average. That is considering everything a part of the movie. Like, I think, I think that that third act really pegs it down a whole lot, significantly so. And yeah, I mean, there is still that, like, who's the daughter? Like, we know she's into this band. Okay, fine. And she's singing along, so we know that she's, obsessed or whatever, and that she has a falling out with her friend, but we don't know anything past that. And it feels like that is, it is like the second portion of this film, and it feels like that didn't feel like it was ever the focus, or, there is a complexity of, how much time do you give to a main character versus, secondary characters. And that's definitely a trickier conversation to have in terms of, if you're starting out writing, for example. I think it really depends on what type of story you're trying to tell. If your main character has this much focus, and, even if he's the main antagonist in this case, in this scenario, even if he wasn't, there is the amount of space you lot versus what you would give to other characters. And even under him, we do understand that he is a serial killer and that he's definitely messed up in the head. Something about his mom, because there is that additional little layer to him, at least, at bare minimum, there's that, but it doesn't go beyond that either. So I guess there's, something to grab onto in terms of the main character. I don't know. I don't know if there needed to be a little bit more, a way of thinking through an antagonistic point of view can definitely be tricky, I would suspect, for someone like M. Night, considering the outcome of this movie. At least that's what the outcome seems to be for me, at least, versus other ones with antagonistic characters that I think might have even done better, slightly. But maybe that might also bridge on the performance thing on top of that. I don't know where that slide is necessarily. So, there's that. At any rate, I think that's all I can really say on that matter, so that's where I'll leave the review. And if you ended up enjoying it, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. Want to head over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers, look into my PayPal, where you can help support me and my channel directly, and to my Discord server you can join collabs, shield, all that close stuff. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.